9 Golden Age stars who got lobotomized, or were nearly forced to. Hollywood's Golden Age conjures images of glamour and stardom. Elegant actors and actresses living extraordinary lives under the studio spotlight, but behind the glittering facade lurked a darker reality. Stars who struggled with mental health issues in an era when psychiatry was primitive and often brutal. The 1930s through the 1950s saw the rise of a procedure, so barbaric that it's almost unimaginable today. The lobotomy, a treatment that involves severing connections in the brain's prefrontal cortex. Usually by inserting a metal pick through the eye socket or drilling holes in the skull. The procedure was designed to calm patients, but often left them shells of their former selves. For Hollywood stars whose emotions were their instruments and whose personalities were their currency, this treatment was especially devastating. Some of cinema's brightest lights faced this terrifying procedure, while others narrowly escaped it through luck, intervention, or privilege. Today we're exploring one of Hollywood's most disturbing secrets: the stars who were lobotomized or came dangerously close to suffering this irreversible procedure. Their stories reveal not just personal tragedies, but the darker side of Hollywood's studio system. A system that viewed performers as commodities to be controlled, even if that meant destroying the very minds that made them special. I'm very happy to be here tonight to let people see that I am the kind of person I am. 1. Frances Farmer, Hollywood's rebel destroyed. When Frances Farmer burst onto the Hollywood scene in the 1930s, she seemed destined for superstardom. With her striking beauty, raw talent, and fierce intelligence, she stood out among the carefully manufactured starlets of the era. Films like Come and Get It, 1936, showcased her extraordinary range and intensity, earning comparisons to legends like Greta Garbo. But Farmer was also outspoken, independent, and unwilling to play by Hollywood's rigid rules. She refused to attend studio publicity events, spoke candidly to the press, and challenged directors when she disagreed with their vision. In an industry built on control, such behavior was unforgivable. They called her difficult. They turned her into a zombie. Farmer's downfall began with a series of arrests for disorderly conduct and assault in the early 1940s. Her increasingly erratic behavior, likely exacerbated by alcohol abuse and possibly undiagnosed bipolar disorder, provided the perfect pretext for removing her from public life. In 1943, she was institutionalized at Western State Hospital in Washington, beginning a 7-year nightmare in various mental institutions. What exactly happened to Farmer during those years remains controversial. According to her autobiography, Will There Really Be a Morning?, published posthumously and possibly embellished by others, she endured horrific abuse, assault by orderlies, being hosed down with cold water, forced to eat her own feces, and subjected to electroshock therapy without anesthesia. The most disturbing allegation involves a transorbitidal lobotomy, the infamous ICIPIC procedure pioneered by Dr. Walter Freeman, who traveled the country performing laboratoires with assembly line efficiency. While no definitive medical records confirm Farmer underwent this procedure, many who knew her described a profound personality change after her institutionalization. She wasn't the same person, recalled a former colleague who visited Farmer after her release. The fire was gone, her eyes were empty. It was like talking to someone wearing a Frances Farmer mask. Whether Farmer actually underwent a lobotomy remains one of Hollywood's most disturbing mysteries. Some biographers insist it happened, while others argue her personality changes resulted from years of electroshock therapy, medications, and trauma. What's undeniable is that the vibrant, challenging actress who entered the institution never truly emerged. After her release in 1950, Farmer attempted a comeback, even hosting a local TV show in Indianapolis for a few years, but she never returned to major films. The brilliance that had made her special had been extinguished. Whether by a lobotomy or the cumulative effects of years of institutional abuse, Farmer died of esophageal cancer in 1970 at age 56, largely forgotten until the 1982 film Frances, starring Jessica Lange, revived interest in her tragic story. Her fate stands as a chilling reminder of the price paid by women who defied Hollywood's expectations in an era when difficult behavior could be pathized and treated through barbaric means. The tragedy of Frances Farmer isn't just what was done to her, notes film historian Margaret Barnes. It's that we'll never know what she might have become. A whole career, a whole life, was essentially erased because she refused to be controlled. 2. Rosemary Kennedy, America's hidden tragedy. Though not a Hollywood star herself, Rosemary Kennedy's story intersects with celebrity, its culture, through her connection to America's most famous political dynasty. As the sister of future President John F. Kennedy, future Senators Robert and Ted Kennedy, and future Rat Pack adjacent Patricia Kennedy, who married actor Peter Lawford, Rosemary's fate offers a stark illustration of how even the most privileged families could be destroyed by the lobotomy craze. One operation erased her personality and her place in the family. Born in 1918, Rosemary was a beautiful young woman who struggled with behavioral issues and learning difficulties from childhood. Some historians believe she may have had intellectual disabilities resulting from oxygen deprivation during birth, while others suggest she may have had undiagnosed dyslexia or mental illness. As Rosemary entered adulthood, her behavior became increasingly concerning to her father, Joseph Kennedy, Sr. She was prone to mood swings, had difficulty following rules, and most alarming to the emoji-conscious Kennedy patriarch, showed interest in men and sexuality at a time when such behavior in unmarried women was considered scandalous. In 1941, without consulting his wife, Rose, Joseph Kennedy made a decision that would haunt the family for generations. He authorized a prefrontal lobotomy for his 23-year-old daughter. The procedure was performed by Dr. Walter Freeman and his partner, Dr. James Watts. With Rosemary awake during the operation, Freeman asked her to recite poems and count backward while he cut into her brain with a small knife. They continued cutting until she became incoherent and could no longer respond. The results were catastrophic. Rosemary, once capable of writing in her diary and participating in society, was left with the mental capacity of a toddler. She could no longer speak coherently, walk properly, or care for herself. The vibrant young woman who had danced at embassy balls was now severely disabled. The lobotomy was a catastrophe, writes Kennedy biographer Lawrence Leamer. Rosemary's personality was obliterated. She was left permanently incapacitated. The Kennedy family's response was to essentially erase Rosemary from their public narrative. She was sent to a psychiatric institution in Wisconsin, where she would remain hidden from public view for decades. The family told friends she was reclusive or teaching at a school for disabled children. Her siblings were discouraged from visiting her. It wasn't until after Joseph Kennedy's death that Rose Kennedy began visiting her daughter regularly. And not until the 1960s did Rosemary's siblings reconnect with her. By then, more than 20 years of isolation had compounded the damage from the lobotomy. Rosemary lived until 2005, dying at age 86. In her later years, she received better care and more family visits. But she never recovered from the procedure that had robbed her of her future decades earlier. The Kennedy family's eventual acknowledgement of Rosemary's condition did lead to positive change. Her sister, Eunice Kennedy Shriver, founded the Special Olympics. In part inspired by Rosemary's plight, and the family later supported improved mental health initiatives and disability rights. Nevertheless, Rosemary Kennedy's story serves as a stark reminder of how women's behavior was pathized and treated in mid-century America. Even in the most privileged families, her lobotomy wasn't performed to help her, but to make her more manageable for others. A motive that drove thousands of similar procedures during this dark chapter in psychiatric history. More when I got through than when I started. What was your problem with the doctor? Well, that's what everyone is. 3. Jean Tierney. Beauty saved from the scalpel. Jean Tierney epitomized Hollywood glamour in the 1940s, with her striking cheekbones, overbite, which became known as the tyranny bite, and inspired cosmetic dental work among female fans. In mesmerizing green eyes, she became an icon in films like Laura, 1944, and The Ghost and Mrs. Muir, 1947. But behind her perfect facade, Tierney struggled with devastating mental health challenges that nearly led to a lobotomy. She played angels on screen and was nearly silenced forever off it. Tierney's descent into mental illness began with a series of personal tragedies. During her pregnancy with her first child, she contracted rubella, German measles. After exposure to a fan who broke quarantine to meet her, the infection caused her daughter to be born with severe disabilities, including blindness, deafness, and intellectual disabilities. A reality that haunted Tierney with guilt despite it not being her fault. A subsequent miscarriage, marital problems with her husband, Oleg Cassini, and the pressure of maintaining her career while caring for her disabled daughter pushed Tierney into a severe depression. By the early 1950s, her mental health had deteriorated to the point where she was struggling to function on